the riff rafters up there. How's the view from up there? Awesome. So yeah, it's been a couple of good acts so far. I like to call these little micro sets that we're doing today because trying to get all these friends of mine that I've known for, well, some people a short period of time and some I've known for years. Well, this next guy, I'm not going to get into the story about the next guy where we've met, but it goes back 20, I don't know how many years now, 20-ish. We've got to be careful, it might reveal our age, so I'm not going to say anything, okay? But anyway, yeah, so the next gentleman coming up here is Mr. Ken Jukebox Morris, a good friend of mine. I've met him at music festivals, we've jammed a million times, we've done everything together. He knows a lot about me and I know a lot about him. Things that I probably don't want to know, and he probably thinks that he doesn't want to know either. But nonetheless, you're a good friend, Mr. Jukebox Ken Morris. Folks, welcome to the stage, buddy. And if I'm lucky, I might get in, you know, might come up and join him for a song. I don't know, we'll see. And that's me. Let's hear it, Mr. Jukebox. Oh, let me get that. It's wrecked on me. It's not wrecked. Right. One at a time. Ken wanted like, you know, an hour and a half by himself up here, but I had to, you know, pare him down to 32 minutes.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so Jukebox Ken is kind of my handle, nickname that I've got. Tonight I want to introduce you to the other guy, Ken, who isn't Jukebox Ken. So Jukebox Ken, I got that handle because oftentimes at campgrounds, that can be found around a campfire, singing songs till, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'm the guy that doesn't run out of songs. I don't have to repeat them. But I write songs too, and I've been writing songs since I was 15, and 8 days ago. So I wanted to play for you. There's kind of a common theme in the songs that I write, and I've written hundreds of songs. I love writing songs. I love the process, and I write a lot of protest songs. Somehow a lot of my songs end up being protest songs, so I'm going to pull out a few for tonight. But I got to tell you where the protest comes from, where it kind of comes from. So I was born and raised in Meaford, Ontario, Georgian Bay. And if you've ever been there, you know it's a nice place to visit. It's where I got my first guitar. I lived there till I was 14. And in Meaford, when I was growing up, there were only 2 places to play music. There was my mom's kitchen and the Legion, right? And there were only 2 kinds of music, country and Western. So I learned how to play them both. And then for a year I lived in Thornbury, which is just up the bay, with my sister. And in Thornbury, it was a very kind of crappy fashion. There were a lot of windsurfers, a lot of sailboarders, skateboarders, BMXers. So I kind of adopted that style and was living the good life for a year, but my mom thought it was too free. I was living the good life too much. I got to go live with my dad in Guelph. And my dad and my brother lived in Guelph, and my dad worked in a factory and my brother worked construction, so I never saw them. And at 15 years old, I was launched into the city of Guelph, a whole new horizon. And I remember actually walking to school the first day. There I was in my my Van sneakers and my regular pants, button-down polo T-shirt, shirt, haircut short, a little bit of blonde spray in there. And I walk up to what's going to be my new school, which is GCDI. And I remember walking down the street, and in this cloud of smoke, I see it. As I get closer, it becomes clearer and clearer. And what it turned out to be was the freak den outside of the school. What a shock. What a culture shock. It was the first time I ever saw a 1.5-foot mohawk that was spray painted safety orange. Right? I was like, wow. And it was called the Freak Pit because there wasn't any one group of freaks that could take it over. Like there was punks, skinheads, mods, goths, even a couple of hippies in there, but nobody that looked like me, right? There with my my pink polo shirt and thinking I was all fancy and everything. So I quickly realized that those were the most interesting kids in the school. Those are the kids that I should hang out with and get to know. So I quickly changed my uniform because there were a lot of anarchists and things like that. And everybody knows that the key to anarchy is the uniform. You gotta have a good uniform. So suddenly I've got, the Doc Marten shoes, everything black, grew my bangs long, dyed my hair black. My bangs were so long I had to flip them out of the way every time I wanted to look at something or talk to somebody. I became one of those kids. But those kids, hanging out with those kids, taught me a lot about basically the philosophies and kind of the outlook on society in general and people in general that many of them still live with me today. The things that I formed there, many of them still are a part of my kind of current outlook. And sitting in one of the kids' rec rooms, listening to the Ramones, smoking hash when we were supposed to be in school, we figured out a lot of things, right? One of the main things we figured out is that grown-ups totally suck. Grown-ups suck, man. Like they're terrible. The suits and the 40-hour work week and all the war and banks and taxes and rent and it was like, dude, there's no way I'm joining that system, man. I'm just gonna play my guitar and write songs like Neil Young. So a lot of that stuck with me. I still think grown-ups suck, but not these grown-ups. But like the grown-ups, the ones that should be taking care of us, making sure that we're not in wars and things like that. Those grown-ups still suck. So that's why there's a lot of protests left in my music. But I'm gonna play you this one. This is what 15-year-old Ken was coming up with. And you can laugh at the unironic irony of the tune. I'm not a rebel, I don't wanna rebel. I'm just not buying what they're trying to sell. Don't you think of my actions as a product of you? To say what I feel and what I feel to be the truth. I'm just a young man who's trying to get by. Look to the world through a younger man's eyes. Go through this life under heavy sedation. Seems we're all stuck in our own generation. Politicians and evangelists are all the same. They're all the victims of their own little games. Say they open the door to a better way. I'm not prepared to do everything they say. I'm just a young man who's trying to get by. Look to the world through a younger man's eyes. Go through this life under heavy sedation. Seems we're all stuck in our own generation. You've got a mind, you can think for yourself. So don't be a puppet on their little shelf. Just say what you feel and feel what you say. Fight for the things we believe in today. I'm just just a young man who's trying to get by. Look to the world through a younger man's eyes. Go through this life under heavy sedation. Seems we're all stuck in our own generation. Young men and old men, they think the same way. Since it's only the young man who'll stand up to say, give us some credit, we do the best that we can. We might not be old enough to understand. Would you give us some credit, we do the best that we can. We might not be old enough to understand. I'm just a young man who's trying to get by. Look to the world through a younger man's eyes. Go through this life under heavy sedation. Seems we're all stuck in our own generation. Thank you. Where were you 40 years ago? So of course I played that for my friends and my family. Right. So of course I played that for my friends and family, you know, and I thought, you know, they're gonna love it. Everybody's gonna say, oh, that's so great, Ken. You know, like you're gonna get a record deal for sure. Everybody's gonna love you like Bob Dylan, you know. There was a lot of, you write a lot of, and I wrote a bunch of songs too. It wasn't just that one. But it was like, you write a lot of serious and a lot of sad songs, Ken. Like, have you heard of the Bare Naked Ladies? Why don't you learn some of their music? It's so happy and everybody loves it, right? So, that's right. But, so anyways, I finished high school, I grew up, I joined the grown-up world. I worked construction for a little bit, and then my dad got me a job in the factory, and I swore I'd only stay a couple of years until I got enough money to make my record, right, and get my hit out there. And 30 years later, I just retired. Anyways, so, what I found was, I love writing songs, but I also love playing music with other people. So I started learning all the songs I could. And then I got some gigs, opening open stages. I hosted the open stage at Jimmy Jazz in Guelph for 3 summers. And every Sunday I would learn every song I could. People would be like, hey, do you know this, R.E.M.? Nope, next week though, right? And so I taught myself how to memorize lyrics and how to memorize chords. And that's kind of where the jukebox thing came in. But I still kept writing songs. And I met this guy in Guelph. His name's Louis Melville. And if you don't know him, he was a scientist at the university and a musician, and the partner of Tanis Slimane, who's a great musician. And he had a record company at the time, like back in the 90s and 2000s. People were buying CDs. He was making CDs, and people were buying them. So he kept making them, and he did this really great thing to try to bring in the community. He made these compilation discs. So he'd bring 30 artists in on one record. And he did food songs and truck songs and work songs and 60-second songs, all these songs with a theme. Well, suddenly what happened was the Gulf War. Do you guys remember the Gulf War? Right? Like, you know, Western culture has been trying to make sure that there's peace in the Middle East for thousands of years, and sometimes they do it by replacing the guy in charge over and over again. Sometimes they just drop bombs. So this was Bush 1, dropping bombs. Louis said, let's do music for peace. Everybody write a song for peace. And we might not change the world, but at least they'll hear us. and we can say that we protested, right? So this was my contribution to Music for Peace. Young child on the road, victim of the time, beyond all his control, not beyond his mind. Children often fight, reason without rhyme. You stop them if you could, tell them it's not right. With a child there's always hope. With a child there's always hope. Teach the child to share. Can he share the land and welcome those in need with an open hand? Teach them to be kind, generous and smart. Can you teach a man with hatred in his heart? With a child there's always hope. 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 Reason for the prayer, so listen to his cry. It's such a brunt to bear. The lessons he has learned, to love and not to fight. Stop them if you could, tell them it's not right. With a child there's always hope. 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 Young child on the road, a victim of the time, beyond all his control, not beyond his mind. Children often fight, reason without rhyme. Stop them if you could, tell them it's not right. With a child there's always hope. With a child there's always hope.
You hear Ricky's fiddling?
Gonna get Tim to join me on this one. So,
Hi again.
It looks like you didn't know you were going up.
so this carried on. Lewis kept making those records. They kept bombing in the Middle East. They moved to Afghanistan. So we put out another one because that first one didn't totally do the job. But this time we had to make peace in Afghanistan. So that record was called Afghanistan on Guard for Thee with a question mark. And when I submitted this one to Lewis, he was like, "This is perfect. The people whose minds we want to change love gospel and bluegrass music. And you've written a gospel and bluegrass music that can maybe change their mind." So it's in the key of G. So this one's called No Kings in Heaven. There'll be no kings in heaven. There'll be no kings no more to persecute for their own greed and send young men to war. Surely goodness and mercy are the keys orders from their throne, instead of serving their one true God for the benefit of man. Pride and greed and power are the sources of their plans. There'll be no kings in heaven. There'll be no kings no more to persecute for their own greed, send young men to war. Surely goodness and mercy are the keys to heaven's door. There'll be no kings in heaven. There'll be no kings no more. There'll be no kings in heaven. There'll be no kings no more.
Ken likes to think he's still on track, so I better get out of here. Sorry, eating up your valuable time, bud.
It's all right. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust a little bit. I thought I had an hour, you know. You know, a guy gives you a call and says, "Hey, will you come play my thing?" You didn't realize it's gonna be like 15 minutes.
Everybody needs some 15 minutes, man. I thought I'd give it to you.
So anyways,
The heckler's on stage, isn't that what
here's another one this one was more about important elections, like, you know, we gotta try and do something. At least we gotta have our complaints heard, right? Like, I don't know. And my songwriting muse complains a lot. He does a lot of complaining.
It is.
This country was standing here long before you and I. Earth and green, rocks and streams, sun and sea and sky. People came and they carved a life in the days of wood and stone. Worked hard for what they had, and they called this country home. Now this is your country, and it's time to have your say. Think of all that it's given you, before they give it all away. Blacks have built this country are now sleeping in her arms, never dreaming anything could do her any harm. Men have come again, it seems, to take more than they need, never building anything, but only for their profit and greed. This is your country, now it's time to have your say. Think of all that it's given you, before they give it all away. This is your country, as it was handed down to you. What you leave for those to come all depends on what you choose. First job of our leaders is to defend the people and land. Lately don't it seem though they've got other plans. Politicians and profiteers have been running hand in hand. What they can't take from you, my friend, they've been digging out of the sand. This is your country, and now it's time to have your say. Think of all that it's given you, or they give it all away. This is your country, and it was handed down to you. What you leave for those to come all depends on what you choose. This is your country, and ain't it time we had to say, think of all that it's given you, for they give it all away. For they give it all away. For they give it all away. Well, my time is up. I've got one more for you here. I just wanted you to know, so yeah, like anybody who does anything artistic, it's very hard to control the muse. Sometimes the muse just does what it does. You either let it flow through you and put it out and finish it, and or you don't. But so that was the complaining, political protest side of my songwriting. I want you to know that it's not all that. Sometimes I come up with solutions. Right? So, I'm not just one of those people that complains about everything. So here's pretty much the best solution I've come up with so far. What the heck we doing? Tell me what went wrong. Getting so cheesed off, I had to write this song. Can't be the only one who thinks the game is rigged. I'm losing my mind, yeah, about to flip my lid. 'Cause I've been beating my head against the same old wall, never really getting anywhere at all. Doing what I can for society, there doesn't seem to be much left for me. Left for me, that's why I'd rather be a hobo on a midnight train, headed for I don't know if it's got a name. And I'd rather be sleeping underneath the stars, or wake up in the morning, catch another car. I'd rather be wandering around like a freeborn man, scratching out a living any way I can. I wouldn't have to worry about stepping out of line. Don't worry about me, buddy, I'll be just fine. Help me out. I'll be just fine. What the heck we doing? There's only so many days. Who the heck decided more work and less play? Who the heck cares if we get it done? I say, wouldn't it be better if we had more fun? Instead of beating our head against the same old wall, never really getting anywhere at all. We're paying all that money up to the man. It's time we took a hobo stand. Hobo stand. That's rather be a hobo on a midnight train, headed for I don't know if it's got a name. I'd rather be sleeping underneath the stars. I wake up in the morning, catch another car. I'd rather be wandering around like a freeborn man, scratching out a living any way I can. I wouldn't have to worry about stepping out of line. Don't worry about me, buddy, I'll be just fine. I'll be just fine. Be just fine. I'll be just fine. I'll be just fine. I'll be just fine.